2 days ago, Alex Eala was down 0-3 in the first set against Wang Senu at the Foro Italico, staring at what looked like another early clay court exit. Another line added to a growing list of red dirt disappointments. She won 12 of the next 15 games. Now she walks into a third-round match against Elena Rybakina, the world number 2, the reigning Australian Open champion, a woman who has lost only 6 matches all year and averages nearly 7 aces per match. This is not a matchup that makes sense on paper, but tennis has never exclusively belonged to paper. Let me tell you what is actually happening in Rome right now because the numbers alone do not capture it. Eala arrived at the Italian Open ranked 42 in the world, a significant fall from her career high of 29 reached in March. Her clay court season before this week read like a cautionary tale. A loss to Ostapenko in Rouen. A loss to Leylah Fernandez in Charleston. A demolition at the hands of Elise Mertens in Madrid 6-2, 6-1. A scoreline so lopsided that former world number 4 Greg Rosetsky went on air and told her she needed to dramatically improve her serve. 3 clay tournaments, 3 exits before the third round. Then she comes to Rome and beats Magdalena Frech in 3 sets, falling behind early, recovering, digging out a 6-0, 3-6, 6-4 victory that required her to win the final 4 games of the match. And then Wang Su, a player who had beaten her in Auckland just 4 months ago, dismissed in straight sets with a composure that looked nothing like the player who crumbled in Madrid. Something has changed. The question is whether that something is substantial enough to matter against Rybakina. Here is what you need to understand about Elena Rybakina in 2026. This is a player operating at what might be the absolute peak of her career. She won the Australian Open in January, beating Iga Swiatek, Jessica Pegula, and Aryna Sabalenka in consecutive rounds. Not just beating them, beating Switch 7-5, 6-1, beating the world number 1 from 0-3 down in the third set. She reached the Indian Wells final, holding a championship point against Sabalenka before losing in a third-set tie-break. She made the Miami semi-finals. She won Stuttgart without dropping serve in the final against Karolina Machova. Her record stands at 28 wins and 6 losses and 82% win rate. She has beaten 7 top 10 players. She holds a 12-match winning streak over players outside the top 3. This is a machine in full operation, and yet there are cracks. And if you are looking for reasons to believe Eala has a chance, the cracks are where you have to look. Start with Madrid. Rybakina was the second seed fresh off Stuttgart. She struggled immediately. Went down a set to Elena Gabriela Ruse, ranked 71, fought back but needed 3 sets. Then went down a set again to Zhang Qi-Wen, ranked 36, fought back again. Then met Anastasia Popova, a lucky loser, ranked 56 and lost. Straight sets, 7-6 in the first, 6-4 in the second. No comeback. After the tournament, Rybakina revealed she had been struggling badly with allergies. Last week, I would say I was struggling a lot with allergies, she said in her Rome press conference. Now it's getting better. We are trying with the team. We are adjusting all our practices. We need to really see day by day how I feel. So, the physical question hovers. Rybakina looked fine against Zachary, winning 6-4, 6-1 in 75 minutes. But Zachary is a player who won only 4 of 18 first serve points in the second set of that match. She was not exactly testing Rybakina's fitness. Eala will present a different kind of challenge. Not necessarily a harder one, but a different geometry. This is where the left-handedness becomes important. Eala is left-handed, and it is genuinely surprising how little attention this receives. In general analysis, the left-handed serve swings away from a right-handed player's backhand on the ad side and jams into the body on the deuce side. The left-handed forehand naturally pulls the ball cross-court into a right-hander's backhand. These are not novelty effects. They compound over the course of a match, forcing the returner to recalibrate timing, to adjust read patterns, to think slightly more on shots that are normally automatic. Against someone with Rybakina's serve, where the pace and placement comes so fast that milliseconds of hesitation become costly, Ella's left-handedness might not matter much on the return side. But when Ela is serving, the angles she generates are different from what Rybakina faces week to week. Now, can Eala's serve actually trouble Rybakina? This is the central question of the match, and the honest answer is probably not consistently. Ela's serve has been her weakest stroke for her entire professional career. It has been specifically identified as the technical limitation preventing her from being a consistent top 20 player. Rosetsky said it, commentators have said it, the data says it. In her Madrid loss to Mertens, Ela was broken with alarming ease. Her first serve percentage has been inconsistent all season. And against someone like Rybakina, who returns from deep with flat, penetrating weight, a second serve sitting in the mid-150s is an invitation for punishment. But there was something in Rome this week. In her match against Wang Senu, Ela hit a 166 km/h serve that resulted in an ace in clay. That is not normal for her. That is not even typical for many players ranked above her. She has been training at the Rafa Nadal Academy in Mallorca, specifically on clay court preparation, working on her serve motion, trying to build the kind of ball speed that gives her left-handed angles real teeth. One match does not prove a technical overhaul is complete, but it suggests that the improvement people have been asking for might be happening in real time. Let me frame this differently. Eala's path through the draw tells a story of escalating confidence. Against Freck, she was shaky, dropped the second set completely, had to grind out the third. Against Wang, she was sharp from the middle of the first set onward, never really threatened after leveling at 4-3, and finished the match in 83 minutes with an authority that she simply has not shown on clay before this week. There is a trajectory here. Whether that trajectory can survive collision with Rybakina's firepower is another matter entirely, but the trajectory exists. Consider what Ela has already demonstrated against elite opposition this year. In Dubai, she beat Jasmine Paolini, then ranked 8th in the world 6-1, 7-6. That first set was not close. A 6-1 set against a player who reached the French Open and Wimbledon finals just 2 years ago. Ela has beaten Madison Keys and IGSWYCH in the past 12 months. Her record against top 10 players is 3-2 and all 3 wins came in straight sets while both losses went 3. She is not a player who wilts against big names. She is a player who when her game is clicking can produce tennis that genuinely confuses elite opponents because the angles come from the wrong side. Here is the tactical problem Ela will face. Rybakina's serve is one of the best in women's tennis. She averaged 6.82 aces per match in 2026. She led the ace charts at the Australian Open with 47. Her first serve when it lands is nearly unturnable. It does not matter how good your return game is if the serve is clocking 190 and hitting corners you cannot reach. Ela's best weapon is her return. Her ability to redirect pace to find angles off the backhand that wrong foot opponents, but she needs the ball to come to her at a speed she can handle. Rybakina's serve might simply bypass that entirely. On the other hand, slow clay does interesting things to serves. The ball sits up slightly more after the bounce. The surface absorbs pace. A 190-kilometer serve that would be an ace on hard court becomes a returnable ball on Roman clay if the placement is even slightly off. This is not indoor Stuttgart clay which played faster. This is outdoor for Italico clay, a surface that rewards patience and punishes over reliance on pace. Rybakina knows this. She won Rome in 2023, but she also has a peculiar record here. Outside that 2023 title run, she is just 1-3 in third-round matches of this tournament. Something about the middle rounds in Rome has historically troubled her. Maybe it is the transition from faster hard courts. Maybe it is the pollen in the Roman air that has her reaching for antihistamines. Maybe it is just variance. But the data point exists. The match will likely be decided in 3 specific phases. The first is the opening 4 games. Rybakina is a fast starter. She likes to impose herself immediately, get the early break, and cruise on serve. If Ela goes down an early break the way she did against Wang, recovering will be significantly harder because Rybakina's serve is far more formidable. Eala needs to hold her opening service gains. That sounds simple. It is not simple. It means landing first serves, getting free points, not allowing Rybakina to settle into a return rhythm. The 166 km ace against Wang was not just a showcase moment. It was evidence of what Eala needs to produce from the very first game. The second phase is the mid-set exchanges. Rybakina is at her most vulnerable when rallies extend beyond 4 or 5 shots. Her movement, while improved significantly over the past year, is not at the level of someone like Swiatek or Sabalenka. She prefers to finish points quickly, either through serve or through her enormous forehand, that she can flatten and drive through the court. On clay, where the ball comes back one more time than it does on hard court, Eala can potentially extend rallies and create the kind of physical discomfort that Popova exploited in Madrid. Ella's lefty forehand cross-court will push Rybakina wide to her backhand side. And if she can then open the court and redirect to the forehand corner, she creates the exact running pattern that Rybakina handles less well than other world-class players. The third phase is the psychological one. This is a first meeting with Rybakina. There is no head-to-head baggage, no memory of past defeat to carry, no scar tissue. A is playing with house money. Nobody expects the world number 42 to beat the world number 2 in the third round of a WTA 1000. There is genuine freedom in that. Eala has already achieved her best clay court result this week. Everything from here is bonus. That psychological lightness can produce remarkable tennis in young players because the usual pressure to hold leads, to close out sets, to manage nerves in big moments simply does not apply with the same force when you have nothing to lose. For Rybakina, there is a different kind of pressure. She is defending her 2023 Rome title. She needs deep runs to maintain her position relative to Sabalenka. She has the weight of being expected to win decisively against lower-ranked opponents. That weight does not usually trouble her. But when she is not feeling physically 100%, when the allergies are interfering with her breathing and her energy, the margin between dominance and discomfort narrows. Against Popova, it narrowed enough for her to lose. Could it narrow again? Honestly, the most likely outcome is Rybakina in straight sets. The serve differential alone makes that probable. Rybakina will likely hold serve without much difficulty, and she only needs 1 or 2 breaks in each set to close it out. Her breakpoint conversion rate this year is elite. When she gets chances, she takes them. Ella's serve, even with improvements, probably gives her enough break opportunities to win comfortably. But the most likely outcome is not the only outcome. The path to an Eala victory is narrow, but visible. It requires her serve to function at the level it showed against Wing. It requires her lefty angles to create enough confusion on Ryukhin's return games to generate deuce after deuce. It requires her to extend rallies into that uncomfortable 5 to 7 shot range where Rybakina's first strike tennis loses its edge. It requires the Roman clay to do its job to slow things down to give Eala an extra half second to read and redirect. And it probably requires Rybakina to have one of those days where the allergies are worse rather than better, where the energy from Stuttgart and Madrid and the Australian Open has finally accumulated into something resembling fatigue. All of those things happening simultaneously is improbable. Any 2 or 3 of them happening together is nearly unlikely. And unlikely things happen in tennis every single week. What makes this match compelling is not the probability of an upset. It is the specific nature of the collision. Eala represents something genuinely new in women's tennis. A left-handed player from the Philippines trained at the Rafa Nadal Academy who has already proven she can beat top 10 players in straight sets and who is visibly growing from match to match in a tournament where she arrived with nothing to defend. Rybakina represents the opposite. The established force, the owner of 13 titles, the possessor of weapons that have already answered every question the tour has posed this year except the one Sabalenka keeps asking. If a wins, it will be the biggest result of her career on clay, the biggest upset of the Rome tournament, and proof that her Dubai and Miami performances were not surface-dependent anomalies, but expressions of a talent that is learning to translate across conditions. If she loses, she goes home having already made the third round of a WTA 1000 clay event for the first time, having already demonstrated growth that was invisible 2 weeks ago, having already justified the decision to invest in clay court development at the academy. Both outcomes tell a useful story, but only one of them would make the tennis world stop and reconsider what it thought it knew about Alexandra Eala, the left-handed girl from Manila who once seemed limited to hard courts, who everyone said needed to fix her serve, who carries a nation's passion for a sport they barely have infrastructure to support. She has done improbable things before. The question on Saturday is not whether she is capable of doing another one. It is whether this particular improbable thing against this particular opponent on this particular surface at this particular moment in both of their seasons is the one that actually happens. The court will answer.